Hello everyone, Jordan here, and today we have another Minecraft video. Today we have a Ryanair Boeing 737-800 in their current livery. We've built this aircraft in 3-to-1 and we're mimicking the registration Echo India Foxtrot Zulu Foxtrot, a aircraft that was delivered in 2017 and is currently line number 6321 and is currently still in service for Ryanair, and features the sky interior as well as some other really cool features that modernize the 7.3. Anyways, for this showcase, we're going to tour around the aircraft and talk about the history of this reg and the history of Ryanair and the 7.3 itself, and what makes this aircraft so special. But before I begin, if you'd like to join our Discord server, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. If you'd like to see a preview of our work, I posted renders of this livery several days prior, so if you join it, you can join our discussion where we post Minecraft pictures and get an idea of what I'm going to be uploading next to YouTube. Anyways, to begin this showcase, we can start at the nose of the aircraft, and as you can see by these buttons right here, we have the AOA sensors, pitot tubes, and all the cockpit instrument reading devices right here. Interestingly enough, as you've probably heard, the 737 only has 2 AOA sensors, whereas the A320 has 3, so it's a little cool fact about there. So on the A320s, we have more buttons than on the 7.3, but as I can continue, we have the nose gear, we have the nose gear door angle mark, so when the the ground crew are pushing the tug back, this little stripe in the gear is kind of an indicator of where you shouldn't have the wheel turn past this, otherwise you'll snap the gear. And it's amazing, kind of like you would think the nose gear is like a really sturdy thing, but no, it can break very easily if you're not careful while pushing it back. But anyways, this button right here is for a little it's like an electronics bay. There's one in front and there's one behind it right here marked by this. I don't believe this one is exactly an electronics bay, but you can get in here and do some servicing. I believe a lot of the flight computers are in here as well as the bay behind it. But anyways, we have the nose gear right here of the 7.3. We have a little fin down here as well as some buttons down here. If we can continue on the fuselage, we have the wing light right here. Well, it's a fuselage light that illuminates the wing. And we also have a static port right here, and there's also one down here. We have the door with the door plate right here. And what's interesting, what I actually should have added here, and what I should do right here, is that Ryanair has opted for the air stair option. So they have a little switch down here where you can pull it out and it will retract the air stairs right here. Because Ryanair services a lot of airports where jet bridges might not be an option. So Ryanair's opted for the air stairs package on their 7.3s, which increases the weight, but in the case of Ryanair, it's very effective. Again, I probably should have actually made this different. Actually, I probably will do it now. Let's just get gold right there. And as you can see, because this is actually a little different right there. But anyways, to continue though, we have the Ryanair logo, and what's really interesting about Ryanair is that they changed their livery, I think halfway through, and they put a tilt to this little design right here and the design on the vertical stabilizer. And if you look at a picture of Ryanair when they first adopted this livery, these were straight, but they then later changed them. And this is like a recurring theme. A lot of airlines end up doing slight changes to their liveries all the time, like Delta adding the Delta underbelly, Southwest in like 2006 when they shifted Canyon Blue to a slightly different color because the current ones were getting faded way too quickly. That's why if you look at a picture of a Southwest Canyon Blue aircraft from like 2006, you know, it's really light and really faded. But if you look at a picture now, you know, they're nice and like a very deep blue. So point being, liveries go through a lot of like minuscule changes. Lufthansa is a prime example. They immediately did a quick change on their new livery, but a lot of airlines do really small changes, and Ryanair is no exception. So that's just a really cool fact I didn't know about them. But as I can continue, we have the Ryanair text right here. We have the oval wing exits. We have the wing box, and this is where some interesting stuff comes into play that really makes this a different aircraft than the 737-800 we showed in the last video for the Sun Country aircraft. Now this aircraft was delivered in 2017, which means it is equipped with the 737's Performance Improvement Package. What this means is that there's a bunch of really small aerodynamic improvements on this aircraft, as well as some other weight-saving techniques that Boeing did in order to really modernize the 7.3. A lot of these features are the same on the MAX, but when Boeing was developing the MAX, a lot of the features like LED lights, fixed better systems, more aerodynamic features, a lot of those things were put onto the 800s because they still had a backlog of them, and this aircraft features a lot of them, so it's really cool to see what they have. So, to begin with, as you can see on the underside, we don't have a retractable landing lights right here on the underbelly. So on these aircraft, the LED lights in the wings are actually so bright that you don't need them on the underside. So you can get rid of these halogen lights, save weight, less maintenance. So these lights are removed, but if you look at an older 7.3, they are there and they retract out. Continuing on the underbelly, we have these different vents. As you saw in the older ones, it's like a circular black vent on the older 7.3s, but on the newer ones, it's like a physical vent, like a air vent in your house, and it looks like that. So it's really interesting because, like, you know, Boeing changes these things all the time, and you just like you have to have like a trained eye to notice these things. But As I'm on the underbelly though, we have the beacon light. We have some little indents that Boeing usually puts on their underbellies. We have the intake right here, and on the wing, as you can see right here by the sea lantern, it's the LED lights. If you watch the Sun Country video, we put a glowstone texture because that was more yellowish and it matched the halogen light of the older light style. But this is the LED lights that are much brighter. They're very, very bright. So yeah, that's what the lights we have for this. On the engines, they have a slightly different nozzle and exhaust. It's actually smaller, but it doesn't look smaller, but it's a smaller nozzle and exhaust that is a little quieter. And these engines are actually thrust bumped up to 27,000 pounds of thrust. So yeah, again, it's a bunch of really small things that collectively make this aircraft much more improved. Continuing with the aircraft, we have the landing gear. We have the hubcaps right here that are painted blue to match the underbelly for Ryanair, the little landing gear doors that retract up, the flap-track fairings, or the canoes as they're commonly referred to on this aircraft, 3 of them right here. And again, a big difference that you can tell between a 737 NG series versus a classic is that this canoe actually moves down. If you look at a classic wing, such as a 300, 400, or 500, this flap-track fairing is like built into the wing and doesn't move down at all, and the flaps move around it. But when Boeing redesigned the wing in the 90s for the 737 NG and on the subsequent MAX, this flap-track fairing moves as well, and this is a single flap assembly piece. But moving on, we have the wing indent, as I mentioned in the previous video for Sun Country, that some airlines have they've opted for like a no-step outline that goes all the way out. Ryanair is one of the airlines that has opted for this, so as you can see, it extends all the way out, and we have it on the underbelly, the underside as well. Continuing, this is a European aircraft registered in Ireland, so we have the registration on the underside of the wing. This is something that's very common with international carriers, at least for the US standards. In the United States, they don't really do this, but in Europe, Africa, Asia, it's very common to put the registration on the underside of the wing or the upper side of the wing, so we have that right here. We have some lights, we have the winglets right here, and on this side of the aircraft, it's Ryanair painted in gold and the rest of the winglet is blue, but on this side it's all white and Ryanair is written in blue. Of course, I don't, it's a 1 block winglet, so I can't have 2 blocks on different sides, unfortunately, but interesting enough though, I keep saying interestingly enough, it's so cool because Ryanair has like a bunch of really cool facts. They actually have a aircraft where this entire like front part is yellow, kind of in their old livery style, and they've kept it in this reg and they're still flying it to this day in that config, but I wanted to do a standard Ryanair, so I'm not doing that. But we have the ailerons right here, we have the flaps as well as the other flap mechanisms, we have the escape pathway, as well as the little hook that I mentioned in the last video that can be drawn out from the overwing exits in the event of an evacuation and you need to walk out. Continuing over here, these buttons right here are vortex generators. These are on all subsequent 7.3s. It's just small, really aerodynamic improvements that really help the airflow better over the wing and improve efficiency. It's probably a very small percentage increase in efficiency, but little small percentages add up in aviation. But continuing, we have the little flap paneling right here, which allows the flaps to not really scrape up the aircraft when they're moving up and down. We have the gear strut, the landing gear wheel well, which is where the landing gear retracts into. It's, again, as I said in the Sun Country video, it's kind of cluttered, but it works, and it just works, you know. But we have some more fins on the back of the aircraft here, and continuing on, we have some more windows. We have the Irish flag as well as registration. Echo India Foxtrot Zulu Foxtrot, or EIFCF as the registration here. We have the aft exit right here, and we have a tail skid device, and as I mentioned in the Sun Country video, which again was an 800, on this aircraft there's a little marker that's red and green. If depending on how much of the red and green you can see, it's like a visual indicator on whether the aircraft suffered a tail strike, whether the tail strike was not serious enough to have to take the aircraft in for servicing. And yeah, it's just a really cool, like, simple way of knowing, is the aircraft good to go or is it not, or do we need to do maintenance on it? But, anyways, we have the door plate here. We have the I'm sorry, I'm having a stroke right now. We have the stabilizer trim tabs right here. We have the horizontal stabilizer with the trim motion the trim moves right here for that. We have the the elevators back here, marked out by the gray. And we also have more vortex generators here on the back of the aircraft right here. And again, this is something that was removed on the MAX, and some aircraft have them, some aircraft don't. But they're not critical to the flight of the aircraft, but they do smooth the airflow out and make the aircraft flow a little smoother through the air. We have the auxiliary power unit here at the back of the aircraft, as well as a light right there for it. And we have the Ryanair logo here on the vertical stabilizer, that's all blue. And continuing on, it's nearly the same thing on the other side, but we have the APU air intake right here, which is where the air for the APU engine comes in from, right here. On the Max, it's a box. On the NGs, Classics, and original 7.3s, it's like a scoop-like shape. We have the R4 exit right here, and then we have the, cargo base. Let's go in spectator. So as you can see in here, here's the cargo bay of the aircraft. It's not very big, but same thing. You know, it works. It's from a 7.3. It's not really supposed to be big. And on the front section of the aircraft, we have a forward galley as well. Nearly the same thing, but it extends into the wing box as most, cargo bays do, which is a surprise to me. Like, it never like connected the dots that the cargo bay goes that far back. But anyways, we have the CFM56 engines right here. You can see some of the engine internals as well right there. And as I mentioned previously, with the performance improvement package, the nozzle slightly changed, and it is thrust rated to 27,000 pounds of thrust. So yeah, quite a lot. On the top of the aircraft, we have just really small details, just like little buttons. We have a beacon light, some more fins, and a very small SATCOM antenna that Ryanair has installed on their aircraft right here. And then again, another fin towards the back of the aircraft. And yeah, we can tour the nose gear wheel well, because I didn't really do that. It's very tight and very cramped in here. This is what it looks like. It's not a lot of space, but that's where the nose gear will retract into. And another interesting thing about the performance improvement package on the 7.3s is that, again, these wing lights are so bright that they got rid of the nose gear lights. So if you look on a 737 that's really new, or you look on a 737 MAX, you'll notice that there's no light on the nose gear. It's only on the wings. And when you set the light switch to taxi, what this does is just simply dims these lights a little bit so they're not as bright, and they use these for taxiing. But it's just remarkable how bright these LED lights are, that they can remove underbelly lights and the nose lights right here. So yeah, the power of LED lights, pretty epic. But anyways, at the nose, we have windshield wipers marked by the buttons. So without further ado, that's pretty much it for the exterior portion of the aircraft. So we can go inside the interior and take a gander in there. Alright, inside this aircraft, we have the Ryanair all-economy layout. Well, it's technically not all-economy. They have 51 premium seats with 32 to 34 inches of pitch, and then they have 138 standard seats. And the seats really look the same, and I didn't even notice this until I looked at like an official seat map that they have this, but you know, I digress. Anyways, this is with the Boeing Sky Interior. So this is really different in comparison to older Ryanair jets where they had, you know, yellow all the way down here. On the Sky Interior aircraft, they got rid of it and they just, you know, had the mood lighting, but they still have yellow seats, but they're not as yellow as previous aircraft. They also sometimes put advertisements or murals or something on these on these bulkheads, but I just left them in the standard color here. But in these first rows, this is premium, but as you can see, there are no seatback TVs or in-flight entertainment, but you have some, oh, I slipped. We have some tray tables right here, and yes. So as we can go down, we have the overwing exits over here, and then, marked by the exit sign right there. Again, the signature blue mood lighting for the Boeing Sky Interior. We have some lavatories right here, and then we have the rear galley with some galley storage right there. So rear galleys, rear exits, the jump seats sit here and here, but don't really have space for that. And as you probably have heard, Ryanair's ordered the MAX 8-200, which is actually, like, it's interesting because it's like the same fuselage as this, but they ended up adding more seats to it by repositioning things, and they added the extra exits so it can meet federal regulations, because I think for every 50 passengers, you need either an exit and a flight attendant, and it's sometimes those rules vary, but depending on the number of passengers, you need to have a number of exits in order to evacuate the entire aircraft in 90 seconds with half the exits in case of an emergency. But in order to pass that, Boeing added some extra exits back here. So when you see a MAX 8-200, it's not a larger aircraft than the MAX 8, or necessarily even larger than the 800, but it's just like remarkable how many seats they put in this. So yeah. But as I can continue, at the front of the aircraft, we have a jump seat. We have a galley right here for the flight crew. Yeah, this is a galley for a flight crew. The forward exits right here, and then we can go inside the flight deck of the 7.3. It's very small, kind of cramped, but I don't mind it. I'm okay with cramped cockpits. We have a yoke right here. We have the throttle quadrant, the main control panel, the rudder pedals down here, the center console where the throttle quadrant is right there. We have the overhead panel. Again, it's just marked by these, but it's really cool because on the left side you have the fuel pumps, and on the middle side you have the not really, in the middle you just have like kind of basic functions, and on the right side you have the pressurization and pneumatics, and hydraulics are as well on the left side. And at the very bottom row, kind of marked by this, is where all the lights would be operated. Anyways, as to continue, we've kind of a little wool seat back on the cockpit seats with a little cushioning down here. Very comfortable. Back here we have the circuit breaker, which I kind of can't model, but we have a little closet where the flight crew can store their things. And as I said in pretty much every other video talking about the cockpits, the flight manuals are down here, as well as things like the emergency gear hatch on the floor. So, very tight cockpit, but, you know, it works. It works. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much it for today's video. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Smack the like button for more Minecraft content like this in the future. And if you've enjoyed this video, feel free to check out our Discord server where we can see a lot of previews and share Minecraft pictures and builds alike. Anyways, without further ado, I'm Jordan. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.